Welcome, everyone. I'm Dan McDermott, the host of Google Plus Week, um, the number one show on Google Plus about Google Plus that's on Friday night. I'll issue a few more caveats so that I'm not lying. Um, so anyway, welcome to our program. Pam and Alan are in the green room putting on makeup or something. And so I'm kind of like half awake. I'm doing okay. I was up for 24 hours yesterday putting the paper out. And it was kind of crazy. And then Apple Blossom's going on. And I got to say, Pam, I know you're going to be really jealous and upset that I walked away from this. I had the opportunity to interview Candace Cameron from Full House and Lee Greenwood. And I was torn away, kicking and screaming because of another event. I know you're upset, Pam, and jealous. I know you like to live vicariously through these crucial interviews that I do.
Dan, can I already say I'm amazed that the show is not yet 2 minutes old and you've already derailed it?
I have no idea who those people are.
The show Full House with Bob Saget and
Yeah, I never watched it.
the foreign-looking dude who's not foreign, who had the
Totally not interested.
Anyway.
You know, Dan, we actually do have stories tonight. Maybe we should get to one of them?
We do. So I noticed, I'm not sure what order, but I noticed that Google Plus has tweeted for the first time. I guess today they tweeted. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring this up here. All right, so they tweeted, and it was news. I guess there was some darker or hidden meaning in that. And then we learned also that Twitter had a slight snafu. What, they lost like a third of their market value over a leak, right? It was a leaked tweet.
Yeah, it was their own leaked tweet.
It was some analyst who said, but I looked at the numbers and it was like instead of 470 million, they did 440 million. And then, of course, the rumors flew again that Google wanted to buy them. And then Google starts tweeting. Google Plus starts tweeting miraculously. I don't think Vic Condotra has tweeted since the incident when he was told by Larry to not tweet anymore. So anyway, what do you make of all this? Is there a conspiracy? Is Twitter going to, be sold, or what the hell? Alan, I think you have some thoughts.
Well, Pam, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, but in a minute. I think first,
the man speaks first, then the woman. Go ahead.
But so I want to hear Pam's take on this. But I think it's interesting to see what Google is doing with Twitter in general. I mean, as we all know, Twitter is just this monumental thing. I mean, this is where I go first when I want to actually see news, see breaking stories. I mean, just today, I would turn into Twitter and see what my local radio station is talking about. This is where they post. This is where they post all their the news stuff. News stuff. So it's certainly no surprise that if you're talking about news stuff, that this is where you go. I mean, Dan has mentioned innumerable numbers of times, more than I think any of us can really keep track of, just how often it is that he goes to Twitter to get all of his news stuff. And
are you trolling me? Or are you serious? I can't tell.
Wow, it took you that long to figure out I was trolling you. Pam and I had a bet about how long it would be.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I like Twitter, and I was literally on it waiting for Pam to get through hair and makeup. Have you had sugar, Alan? You're not allowed to have sugar before the show. I thought we had this conversation. I've been officially trolled by the best. Go ahead, Pam.
Yeah, well, because it's obvious that you like Twitter.
Next to fapping, Twitter's my favorite thing.
Lord have mercy. I think that it's interesting that, because in the beginning, Google Plus and Google themselves had spat, I guess, with Twitter. There was, we weren't going to let Twitter um, cross feed, and they had little. Twitter was doing. Twitter wouldn't let Google troll the spider bots or whatever their feed.
They cut their access off to the data pipe so that they could get tweets in real time. That's how Google did real time search, and then I guess they were paying for that access, right? And they couldn't come to terms or whatever.
So I think it's interesting, and if if they utilize it the way that they should, then it could be a powerful tool, and I'm not even joking, because even though Twitter doesn't have the following that Facebook has and all that stuff, the Twitter people are loyal, and the Twitter people tend to share news. So if Google uses Twitter the way Twitter is supposed to be used, then it can be a valuable tool to provide information or even get more users onto Google Plus.
And it certainly seems like they have been so far. I mean, the tweets that they've done today have mostly been short one-liners, comedy bits, and memes. So it seems clear that whoever's in charge of posting to Twitter understands that, that the right way to appeal to people using Twitter is to say very little of very little substance, and to entertain them.
I think they've been using it in the right way. They've been immediately, of course, people would be making jokes about, Twitter's a ghost town, but blah, blah, blah. And they were, Google Plus was, and they were playing into that self-deprecating responses. And let's not kid ourselves, there's a lot of material there for Google Plus to be self-deprecating.
Yeah, I think it's great that, when people called them out and said, hey, you're still alive, they came back with witty replies. So whoever is behind it is, knows what they're doing.
It's somebody, who it reminds me of is Matthew Rappaport, who's fantastic at running social media for a company. I thought he was HuffPost for a while, and now I forget what it is. But he's really good at that. But yeah, they got a good team or person doing this. Pam, do you use Twitter at all?
I do. Someone said to me when I just kind of revived my account and throwing some tweets out there and everything, and someone used this I guess comparison. Twitter's like standing in a storefront and yelling at the people as they walk by. So if your followers or someone doesn't catch your little witty saying while you're saying it, or very soon after, then it's lost. There's no it's not like Google Plus where people discover your tweets hours later. Now I did notice recently that they have updated the mobile app, and now they have featured tweets. While you were away, hey, people you follow did this. Now I think that's actually, at first I was annoyed, but I think that's a good idea, because people do miss the tweets, and it's not much for engagement, but it definitely does get information out there. So if Google understands that is the purpose of Twitter, I think that it's definitely a good thing. Now, I'd be interested to see if Twitter comes here.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think the last time we did numbers, I think Google Plus and Twitter were pretty close on active.
I thought last time we did numbers, Google Plus was ahead of Twitter on monthly actives.
but I don't think it was
Yeah, I thought
dramatically
so
different,
too.
was it?
I think it was more than twice.
Oh, okay.
Twitter
Think
was
so?
in the 200,000 or 200 millions. Google was in the 500 millions. Facebook was like 1.4 billion.
I mean, obviously I like it. I've said that ad nauseum. I look at it all the time. It is definitely. I like that it's right now. I like that. The one thing I wish, and there are companies that do this, like if Nepal happens, or the Watergate thing, the garage collapse today. When you're curious, especially as a journalist, and you want sources on the ground, the one thing is discovery without hoaxes isn't there yet. It'd be neat to know who was actually in Nepal, like not a reporter, but just some person who is taking video to kind of tell us what's going on. There's a couple. There's one guy I follow, and he is talking about ISIS all the time, and he's in that area, and he's in hiding. I think he's a pseudonym, but he's actually an Arab or whatever, a Muslim living there, and he tweets all this stuff, and it's really interesting. And so I've learned about him from some other journalists. I don't remember who it was, but I follow him, and it's really good stuff. But that's a problem, finding it. It's such a useful tool when you can find the people who are there and are legit. But it would be cool if you could, like through GPS or what have you, I want everybody who is currently tweeting in the GPS coordinates around whatever incident I'm interested in finding out. And I want real people who have been on Twitter for some time and have tweets and haven't had strikes against them or what have you, and then I want that feed instantaneously. That would be extremely useful. Not that it's not currently useful, but yeah, I wonder what Google Plus would do with it, or Google would do with it, because they bought. I mean, like Google's bought search engines, and they've bought things like Zagat or Zagat. I don't know how you pronounce it, the food thing, and incorporated them into their product. And sometimes they keep things largely standalone, as they did with YouTube, and then other times they buy a company to get the team and the product, and they incorporate it into their existing offerings, as I think they largely did with Zagat. And sometimes it's a hybrid, like they did with Waze, where they're benefiting, but it's still a standalone product. So I don't know. We'll see. What do you think? We talked on Monday about Meerkat and Periscope, these live streaming things. And Meerkat just came out. We'll probably talk about this on Monday. Meerkat just came out for Android in open beta, and I'm sure Periscope is in the process of doing that, but they're two competing live streaming platforms. The gist is, while they're live, you can see it. Meerkat, it's gone once it's done, and I think Periscope, which is the one that Twitter bought, it after a few minutes after it's done, it uploads or processes, and then it's available for 24 hours. And I think both force a vertical orientation rather than landscape. I think, Alan, I've played with them, but I'm not sure exactly what role they have versus anything else, because it's perishable. I don't want to create I don't mind creating time perishable content, but I don't want to create self-destructive content.
I'll be honest, it boggles my mind that people think that this is that people think this is something that's great, but more significantly, B, that YouTube hasn't come out with their version of this product that automatically saves the dang thing. For Christ's sake, YouTube should be blowing this out of the water. But we'll talk about this more on Monday.
Yeah, I just keep like, oh, wow, look at that. It's an avalanche. Oh, sorry, you missed it. You didn't catch it when it was live. So it's gone, All right, so...
I think, the other half of the Twitter part, though, the fact that they accidentally released their numbers.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about this.
That's just I think is a classical and hysterical fail. Not just because it was Twitter accidentally tweeting their own results early, but that it wasn't even Twitter in charge of it. It was an outside company.
I thought it was
Twitter,
NASDAQ, and that they said
it was NASDAQ, but it could be.
I think it was a NASDAQ fail. It was something like shareholder.com or whatever, and something like that. And it's their platform for this sort of thing. And they're supposed to release the results right after closing. That's traditional what they do. so that you have a time, it can regurgitate for a while before people trade
Right.
shares
My
and everyone can
understanding though
talk.
was that the results were the only thing that went out early was the tweet, not the rest of the results.
No, it was what happened. I think was somebody found the results on the website that Nasdaq controls for this purpose,
No,
and
my
they
understanding is
tweeted
that
this
somebody-
out.
My understanding is that the tweet went out, and somebody found the tweet.
Okay. But the sub page was live with the results, and it did not end well. I think they lost 25% of their entire value in a day or in an hour,
A huge chunk of their valuation. Yeah.
and then they went down another 5% or something the next day. I don't know where they'll repair it, I guess, or they'll die 1,000 deaths. I have no idea.
Not necessarily. I mean, part of the problem is that Twitter still doesn't really get how to make money on their platform. They haven't figured it out yet.
Well, they said, I have advertised on Twitter, and I've advertised everywhere. They came out with this new product, and it's a fail. They said, "Oh, it would be so easy, just do it." Well, if you go through it's not nearly as cumbersome as AdWords, but if you go through their thing, you can say, "I'll pay a penny a click," or "I'll pay 5 cents," or whatever you want to spend, or $1. But they came out with this new thing that's really easy, and then you just say how much you want to spend, and then they'll decide how much per tweet. Well, then you might end up spending 80 cents a click, right? And a lot of the stuff is garbage. A lot of the stuff, like you'll pay for 500 engagements, but you really won't get that because some are like spammers and they remove them, whatever. So that's why the product failed. I don't think they do enough testing with real people. They seem kind of arrogant in that way, just like Google is. So I'm not surprised that their quote unquote new products, which is what they said, that the new products have not delivered the results that they were expecting. God forbid someone should do quality control testing with these things before they do it. But Twitter's not alone in that. Any thoughts on that, Pam? I know you're a big, you have quite the portfolio.
No, I don't really have a lot of thoughts about that because, well, for two reasons. Number one, I've never paid anyone for advertising of any kind, and number two, I don't really understand how it works. I've never taken the time to figure that out, so no.
All right. Thank you for your well-rehearsed commentary. That's a moment with Pam for tonight. That's the program, the bridge. Okay, so yeah. All right, so Twitter rocks. I guess I don't know. All right, you want to talk about Elon Musk?
Oh, wait. Who's this? Who's joined us?
What country is he? What continent is he on?
Does he have any signal at all? Apparently not.
I think he's, isn't he stealing Glenn Greenwald's Wi-Fi or something?
For our audience who have no clue what we're talking about, Cadeus appears to have joined the Hangout, but we can't hear him and we can't see him.
He could be on a boat or a plane or on land or driving. But he wouldn't admit he was driving because Pam would yell at him. Because Pam is our safety expert.
So maybe Cadeus is joining us and maybe not. What's our next topic, Dan?
Elon Musk did I thought, a wonderful and inspiring presentation. I showed the kid, I sat him down, and he was glued to it. It was 20 minutes. I recommend everyone watch the YouTube video. It's for Tesla Energy, which he announced. For folks who don't know, although I doubt there's anyone who would watch this program who's not aware of Elon Musk, aside from allegedly being the inspiration for the Iron Man movies, Elon Musk was the founder or co-founder of PayPal, and he is a founder, co-founder, and principal in SpaceX, a company which was originally designed to for his personal mission, which is to eventually colonize Mars within just a couple decades, and delivers the stuff to the International Space Station. It's called Space Exploration, technically, but SpaceX is their moniker. Also, he is the principal at Tesla Motors, which has the best electric car on the market. In fact, Consumer Reports has said is the best car they've ever tested, not just for safety, but for value, for performance. And he also is a principal co-founder. I think his cousin or brother runs Solar City, which is a company that does solar panels. So he announced a new venture, Tesla Energy, which has two products at launch. One is a wall-mounted battery. I think is, 90 kilowatts or 900? And it's being tested now. Basically, you have solar panels, and the thing can operate your home if the power goes out. And if you get several of them, you could actually be off the grid. And then they also have, that's the wall version. Then they have the pack, which is scalable ad nauseum and theoretically could operate a city. And I can tell you from my own news, being as a reporter, I've covered when the local town of Front Royal bought into a coal-fired plant in Ohio with AMP Ohio, which is a company, AMP Ohio. And if you Google that, you can find my story. It's online. But it was about AMP Ohio and Front Royal, Virginia. And I learned that the town of Front Royal needs about 20 megawatts of power to operate. The town of about 15,000 people. So the problem traditionally is that there was no battery that could handle a city or a town or your home. And so electricity has to be produced as it is consumed. And so when you flip the light switch, sir?
Can you just run those numbers again?
I think it was about 20 megawatts.
I'm sorry, that was 20 megawatts you said?
I think is the town. I could be wrong. This is several years ago.
Okay. So
anyway, Alan, while you're
what was the population size again?
About 15,000 people, which would be what, 5,000 homes, 7,000 homes, or
so
dwellings.
1.3 kilowatts.
A kilo. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but I think the way it works is this: if you have 1,000 watt, really a kilo is 1,024, right?
No, not when we're talking energy. No,
it's 1,000.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So what is a kilowatt? If you have a microwave oven, or what is a kilowatt hour? If you have a microwave oven that is 1,000 watt oven, and you are cooking that on high, running it for a solid hour, you would have consumed 1 kilowatt of energy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's a good way to think.
And Pam may correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding. Yes.
Well, basically, a kilowatt hour is 1,000 watts for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so running a 1,000 watt microwave for an hour on high would consume that. So if you want to think about,
right,
but I was blown away by this.
So here's the thing. So the two home batteries, one of them is a 7 kilowatt hour unit, and the other one's a 10 kilowatt hour unit.
So one is designed to be hooked up to the others for actually running your home and having enough stored energy.
Both of them are designed to be hooked up for running your home.
But I think one is designed primarily as a backup when the power goes out, and the other one is designed if you actually want to be off the grid, and you would hook up multiple units.
No, not really. Both of them are kind of, they're both essentially the same unit. You can chain them together so you get more than that. But those are the two units and those are the two scales. Now, it's
okay, I'm looking here at the page. It says right here, specs, it says the models, the 10 kilowatt hour unit is $3,500. It's for backup applications. The 7 kilowatt hour unit is $3,000, and it's for daily cycle applications. So I think this.
Yeah. So the difference between the two is that the 10 kilowatt hour battery is sort of designed to be cycled weekly. The 7 kilowatt hour battery is actually designed to be cycled daily.
So how many of these for a typical home, like Pam in your case, you've got your husband, you got one kid, right?
2.
Okay, you got 2, so 4 people, and you're taking showers and you're getting ready for work, etc. So how many of these, if you wanted to be off the grid, and I don't mean like a backup, I mean no power. and you're in California, which would be a good thing, right? If you were in Alaska, obviously you might not have as much sunlight, but maybe not. I don't know. Reflecting off the snow, I don't know how that works. But if would you need? I think that they said for this unit, which is the home unit, not the commercial unit. You could have a max of 9. So you could have 9 times 63 of the $3,000 units that are daily, or you could have 900 kilowatt hours. If you spent $3,000 or whatever it is.
Ready for some numbers, Dan?
Sure.
So I'm quoting the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the EIA, and they say that in 2013, the average annual electricity consumption was just short of 11 megawatt, short of 11,000 kilowatt hours. So that comes out to about an average of 909 kilowatt hours per month. If you want to take a 30-day month, so you're now talking roughly 30 kilowatt hours a day.
Okay, so you'd obviously want to have more than that because there are cloudy days and sunny days. In the summer, on a sunny day, in the wintertime when it's cloudy and rainy or snowing, you might need more. But I definitely think with 5 or 6 of these things, you could probably be off the grid.
So,
but that means you still need to get the power into it.
That's what the solar panels do.
How much power do you think a solar panel generates?
I have no idea. But Elon Musk, in his presentation, at the end of it, he shows some of the units they had. And they were not the home units. They were the commercial ones. But the entire theater where he was doing the presentation, all the video, the music, the lights, the heating or air conditioning was all being powered by the sun and stored in their batteries. They were using nothing from the grid. And that's what his ultimate thing is. And of course, remember, his ultimate goal is to colonize Mars. And of course, you need something like this. He's kind of crazy, but in a good way.
Okay. So here's a quick read. A typical solar panel produces around 200 watts of power.
In what period of time?
A typical installation might be about a 5 kilowatt hour array.
Well, he showed, in the presentation, again, I encourage people to look at it's only 20 minutes and it's just, action-packed and he's funny. But he showed a map of the United States. And he said, how much coverage would you need to replace all of the electrical needs? We're not talking like gasoline, cars, or planes, but just the power for your home and businesses. And at the U.S. map, right, and there was a little square, like the top corner of Texas. That's how much solar panels you'd need to generate the energy for this. Go ahead, Pam.
Okay. According to Forbes article today by, I believe, Christopher Hellman, he says in order for that to work, in order to be totally off, let's say totally off the grid, right? You'd need, okay, it says given that the average home uses 10,800 kilowatts per year, your home would need 8 average-sized solar systems from Solar City, who's also owned by Tesla, if it were to generate enough power to get you off the grid entirely while also providing enough excess electricity during the day to charge up your power wall. That doesn't even include if you have a Tesla automobile, because then you'd have to,
Power
charge that too. Yeah. So he's worked the numbers, and he says that let's say you do that, you're paying 30 cents per kilowatt hour to get this electricity. If you were to have them install Solar City Solar, which is a no money down, you pay over 20 years or whatever, basically Solar City charges you 30 cents a kilowatt hour, right? That's more than twice what we pay, right? So it's not cheap. Not only that, but this system does not come with the inverters or the installation. The AC/DC inverter is about $4,000 plus professional installation, right? So, you would still have to severely conserve energy at night. You still have to run your refrigerator. You still have to run certain things you can't turn off, right? So you'd have a hard time with just one of these. You'd have to have a couple, and a really freaking huge solar array. You'd have to have a couple of acres maybe to put some solar panels down.
So you can't just spend $3,500 and get your Tesla wall hanging and throw your electric bill away.
Most yeah, unless no, you can't. Even if you worked for a company that built solar panels and you could get them at cost, this would still require a huge number of them. As you know, solar is currently still below 25% efficiency, and until they can bring up some of the efficiency, they have to double it. At least.
What do you mean when you say 25% efficiency? What are you referring to? The cost of making them versus the?
No. The ability of the solar units to harvest the energy and convert it.
How much of the energy of the sun that's actually hitting the solar panel gets turned into electricity?
Yeah, about 20. I think it's currently right around 23-24%. That's just not good enough yet.
Cadeus commented, by the way, in an internal chat. Cadeus is apparently listening to us but can't say anything. That he does know that you can function completely off the grid, or in some cases that you can feed energy back to the power company. There's a difference there. And one is the fact that you may be able to, in some cases, feed power into the grid during the day when the sun is out, and possibly when you're not doing anything around the house. So you've got an energy surplus during the day. But at night, you may need to use the electricity, but your solar system isn't doing anything.
Right.
And as long as you're now pulling down less than you put into it during the day, and in some cases pulling it down at cheaper rates, then you may have an energy value difference. One of the things that the Tesla batteries are promising is that nighttime demand, there's a heavy amount of demand in the evenings, that now that part of the curve can be leveled out a little bit by, during the day, you're putting power into your power wall, and at night, you're now pulling it out of your power wall. So you'll need to pull less electricity off the grid at those times. At least that's the theory.
Yeah.
Historically, I'm sorry.
I mean,
the numbers that Pam and I are looking at, though, certainly indicate there's no way you can run completely off grid.
Now, if everyone in the household has a job and leaves the house during daylight hours, and you have a, literally a wall of batteries to charge, and you're not using anything, the fridge is on, and maybe you have a pet and the air conditioning, oh my God, the air conditioning goes on for a couple of hours here and there, you might be able to store up enough energy to live off the grid, because you come home, and if you have a natural gas, or propane, to take a shower and to cook and stuff like that, you might be able to completely live off the grid. However, you have to have some kick-ass solar panels to do it.
Well, it's
and
about the cost, though.
you have to be a conservative user of electricity. This isn't just someone who sits around with all the lights on all the time and
Has
has
a
all these
computer.
electric toys. A computer only uses 100 watts an hour. It's 100 watts, the average desktop computer. One of those big screen TVs uses about 200 watts. Now the hair dryer, I think I have a 1200 watt hair dryer, so I couldn't,
So she uses
I-
1,200 kilowatt hours every morning.
No, actually, I don't blow dry my hair very often, but when
She
I
uses
do,
2 complete
you can-
Tesla batteries.
you can kind of feel the energy being drained from the light bulbs in the room,
This
So yeah.
this shit does not just happen. Yeah, so it's about cost. I mean, you could live completely off the grid if you had,
Sure.
a couple football fields worth of solar panels or whatever, and you had rooms full of these batteries or whatever. I mean, these numbers are wildly inaccurate, but it could happen. It's just, but
No,
the reason we haven't adopted I mean, this has been around since there was a big thing in the 70s during the energy crisis when Carter was president, and people were talking about this stuff. And it's about cost. It's cheaper to
Yeah.
just pay the electric company. It's cheaper to
Yeah.
have an internal combustion engine than an electric
Yep.
car.
Yep.
And that's the only reason why there hasn't been widespread adoption of like electric cars, which actually I think precede the internal combustion engine. I mean, there were in the 1800s. I think there were electric cars and buses. And it's just that the range was, you can go 10 miles and then charge it for 3 days. And they've made dramatic improvements. But in the end, it's about convenience and cost. And can you visit your cousin in Georgia without having, if not, then I'll just get the other car. Any other thoughts on this? Any other tweets from Cadeas? We could do a whole show. Tweets from Cadeas. All right, let me look at some comments here. Uh-oh, we've lost Alan.
Oh,
All right, so I'm clicking, I'm waiting.
Sorry,
says,
my window got killed from my. I was looking through an article on it, and one of the questions that was asked of Elon Musk is if he's totally off grid, and his reply was no. Right now, he can only power about 2/3 of his house with solar panels.
maybe he can't afford. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Even he?
what do you mean? Even he's probably got a big giant house.
Does he
That's
live
the
in
thing.
some? Does he live in some
So-
crazy state like?
Like
So
California.
you have to, yeah. So you have to be rich and a hippie.
And
Right?
even that's
So-
not enough.
Well,
Oh my
no,
God,
I mean
what the
you
hell?
actually have to think about all the stuff that you use. You can't just like I have this array of incandescent bulbs. Each one of them is 65 watts, and there's 4 of them pointing at my face. You can't do that, So it's a give and take. You can live off the grid, but you have to live a little bit more like you're camping all the time, or you have to rely heavily on propane or something like that, right? No air conditioning, no, you have to use no heat pump, so you have to have different things for heating.
If I could harness
it
what
can
the
be
kid
done.
when the kid comes back from school, if I could harness that, oh my God, that would power the half of the city of New York. Let me tell you.
Every single parent who's ever been alive has wondered at their spawn's energy levels.
Okay, so I'm looking here at our comments here. Praise for Matthew Rappaport. And then I think it's great that Google Plus continues to thrive. Says, is it Dayon? Especially since around last year at this time, there were rumors that Google was going to put an end to Plus. Thank goodness the rumors were absolutely dead wrong. Knock on wood.
There's
The break.
still rumors that they're going to put it into Plus.
I know. The break. Some were repeated by Google on Twitter. today. The break even for an installed connected PV system. What's that? Power something?
Photovoltaic, Dan.
Oh well.
Basically, those are
Don't I feel like an idiot?
Those are solar panels that convert light into electricity as opposed to converting light into heat.
Does Cy really know all this stuff, or does he go to Wikipedia?
Oh my God, he is seriously. He knows a lot about a lot.
You know, Dan, just because
Really?
you get all your information from Twitter doesn't mean that the rest of us do.
Touche. The break even for an installed connected PV system, I can't pronounce it still, I've heard it twice, is between 8 and 11 years. Interesting, the warranty for these Tesla batteries is 10. An off-the-grid configuration would be more than double in size and require the battery, so the break-even point is likely less than or more than 20 years, at which point the PV cells will need to be replaced. It's also likely the batteries would need to be replaced multiple times in that period. And then Cy says during the day, is peak demand electricity costs more than in the evening. So.
Yeah, no, that was interesting, Si. I mean, my understanding is that traditionally, electricity peak is midday. What they were showing was actual, in some of the charts that I saw today, was a double peak. A focus on the morning and then a focus on the afternoon, with the implication that people were actually doing things like turning off air conditioning midday. How realistic that is, I don't know, but that's certainly what I was seeing. Certainly I know that there was a big push for programmable timers for a number of years, and they've backed off on that since they discovered that people can't figure out how to program the programmable timers. But I'm assuming that's at least part of what was behind the double peak theory. I asked Dan what his thoughts on that were, but he seems to have stepped away for a moment to hopefully, prepare a balsamic vinaigrette or something. I don't know if you could hear him laughing, but we just could.
Where's the link to the comment tracker?
I have
To the show.
no idea. Dan?
I tweeted it. I posted it on Google Plus, the dying social network we adore. It's on. If you go to YouTube, McDermott Report is my YouTube thing. It's there. Or if you go to danmcdermott.net, you'll see it as my latest post. That's a whole problem. We can't find the freaking show that we're on.
I can. I just wanted to read the comments.
And then
Dan?
I tweeted it.
There- she's found it, I see. There are other factors. This is literally perpetual motion programming. There are other factors. Roof real estate is the biggest factor, actual peak versus how the power company defines peak for billing purposes. Enron comes to mind. They were really good at that. So, well, anyway, it's good news for Elon Musk since he sells the solar panels as well. So, way to rain on my parade, Alan. With your facts.
Damn those facts. Let me go back to Twitter when I can live a fact-free existence.
Yeah, I got an entirely different picture for my Wikipedia friends. So anyway, all right. So I'm looking at our Flipboard magazine, also known as the Lazy Man's Way to topic up a show. I see that. I guess this is more of a Monday thing, but the Apple Watch apparently has a tattoo issue, Alan. I know you've got a
Yeah, hipsters
armful.
everywhere have this major dilemma right now. This is the biggest hipster crisis ever.
Isn't Kevin Rose like well tattooed? or as Pam would say, inked? Isn't he inked? Speaking of Kevin Rose, kudos to Leo and Mike Elgin, who needs to come back on the show, for rebooting Screensavers. I actually never saw it when it was on, but they're going to it's called The New Screensavers. It launches tomorrow, so kudos to Leo Laporte. And I don't know who's going to be on. I don't know if John Dvorak, who actually was very helpful when I started my newspaper. Ironically, he's a tech guy, but he's also an old magazine guy. So he's got a lot of print experience, and he gave me some tips when I was starting my newspaper. I love John. And so I wish them all the best of luck over at Twit TV with the new screensavers, which starts tomorrow, May 2nd. But what do you think about this, Alan? Should I be concerned about all of my tattoos interfering with my imminent Apple Watch purchase? Just kidding. Craig has it and likes it. He says it's really cool. He talked to me on the phone, and
only if you care about your heart rate.
no, he can make a phone call with it if he's like hauling stuff, whatever. He can. I mean, he can answer the phone with his watch. And we tested it. I called. He said, He said, call me back. And I said, okay. So I called him, and it was not as good as actually him on the phone, but it was as good as your typical Bluetooth experience would be.
Okay, now listen to what I said, which is the tattoo ink on your wrist interferes with the heart rate monitor.
Oh, okay. I stand
on the
corrected.
watch.
So if you're not a,
I don't know. Here's the thing. I have trouble getting excited about, Apple doing something I was able to do 2 years ago. But, kudos for Apple.
you are walking Android commercial.
I didn't say anything about what product I was using.
But your product doesn't have polished steel, jewel encrusted edges. All right, so anyway, that happened. All right, okay, so what the hell is okay, Amazon is partnered with the Wirecutter. I don't know why I added this, to feature third-party reviews on travel gear. Amazon's always been kind of close-knit, but then Google has done this. For example, they bought, I don't know, is it Zagat or Zagat? What the hell is the...
Zagat.
Zagat. I remember when I was a kid, you'd see I think they were tall and skinny guides, right? Obviously chasing after Michelin, which is the go-to restaurant guide. But you could get the travel guides, and they incorporated it. So here's Amazon partnering with someone. I guess they're getting free content, and they're getting exposure on Amazon to sell their crap.
Did you just call Zagat tall, skinny guys?
No, isn't it? No offense to my favorite tall, skinny New Yorker, Alan. Wasn't it the tall, skinny guides? The booklets were tall and skinny, I think.
Oh, okay.
Guides.
Yeah.
Guides is.
I was going to say, because I've seen pictures of the Zagats. And
Like the True Fact guy.
Refer to them as tall and skinny or guys.
True facts about sloths. Guides. And now, true facts about Pam. Everything you've heard is true.
Finding
it's
out
on
true facts
YouTube.
about Pam is not all that difficult. You post them like every Thursday.
Tuesday.
Yes,
Tuesday,
you can
sorry.
find her at TMI.com. It's like TMZ, but real. Meerkat and Periscope have nothing on Pam. Just kidding. We adore Pam. We're actually just afraid of her, so we play along.
Ellen's not afraid of me.
I don't know.
What's there to be afraid of Pam? I've met Pam, unlike some hosts
We
of the show who have decided to skip out on those events.
So I think we've obviously this Amazon topic is a real barnstormer. So a couple things I know. I just jotted some notes down on I actually used a pen and a piece of paper, which I hadn't done for quite some time. I had to figure out which end is the ink and which one is.
Despite the fact that you have 12 tablets, 3 laptops, and a desktop.
Yeah, BlackBerry.
This was so he
Windows.
could insist that ink isn't dead.
So, well, I'm a captain of a dying industry, so I have to use ink once in a while. So, it's amazing. I sent the paper to him at 3 a.m.
Get to the story, Dan.
And in like 3 hours, there's 12,500 copies of it printed in the basement of one of my sales reps. Okay, so I've been playing with HBO Now. I really like it. I've been watching Game of Thrones for the first time. And then I see the Verizon thing where I forget is it Disney, ESPN suing Verizon because they came up with some slim plan which doesn't include all their stuff. And that'll be a matter of contractual law. It's not like who you like or whatever. That'll be like, what does the contract say? But we've talked about this repeatedly since 2011 when we started. God, we're old now. But are we past the tipping point from legacy to cord cutting, or is it going to be a gradual thing? Where are we now?
I think it's still gradual, but it's building momentum. I mean, one of the numbers I found interesting, for example, is that when looking at the Time Warner Comcast Cablevision merger that didn't happen, the combined company was going to have 50 some odd percent of internet customers, but only 30 some odd percent of television customers. So there's a huge disparity, at least among the people that use Comcast and Time Warner.
They were touting the television thing
versus the other,
because the laws were geared more toward the television audience, because the laws, like in many cases, have not caught up with technology. The real issue was the broadband access, but they only had to meet the 30% criteria for television stations. So, yeah, it's all about broadband. They know that. Comcast knows that. I think that I forget where we got this, but some prominent person said, so it must be true. They were talking about NBC, and that some executive from Comcast said that NBC loses money. They bought it to get the content. Now that means the broadcast thing, right? But when they get content, they can run it for years and make money off of it, etc. Maybe there's a long value, but there's a lot of prestige. Or at least there wasn't until Brian Williamsgate. I still think they should bring him back. But I just, it's very, very expensive to fly Richard Engel to the Syrian border and that sort of thing. And how much do you really make from it? And I think it is a prestige. That's why they keep getting sold. I think GE sold it, right? And then Disney bought ABC, and they own ESPN, and all these things have been sold. They're just big corporate marketing tools, really. I mean, have you watched a morning show lately? My God, it's a freaking infomercial. It's a 2-hour infomercial with a little bit of news. It's the only infomercial that has actual commercials in it. Like, we're going to pause our infomercial for TV commercials.
And this is from a man who distributes a newspaper that's mostly advertising with news scattered in it?
We have a wall. It's very different. I don't know. It's really interesting. But also, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life lasted a day. It was nytimes.cat, the website for the New York Times, but instead of .com, you put .cat. And what they did, I wish I had a screenshot. I don't. I'm sure you could Google it. They literally, I swear to God, it was the actual live front page of the New York Times, and every single photo, whatever it was a funny cat gif. They replaced every single photo with an animated cat picture, and it was just so much awesome in one HTML page. And then now it is, I guess it was a BuzzFeed prank or whatever, because now if you go to nytimes.cat, you end up at BuzzFeed. But that was just genius. I mean, talk about too much free time. And then I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Pam. I saw an ad, and I like McDonald's. They're very good to my business. At all the markets I've ever been in, they've always allowed us to circulate our paper at McDonald's. And I occasionally eat there. I enjoy their Egg McMuffins, although I paid $2.29 for an egg. If you get a sausage McMuffin with no egg, it's $1, and if you want an egg, it's $3.29. So literally, I paid $2.29 at McDonald's for an egg. But anyway, they came out with this artisan chicken. So I've heard this word artisan used over and over to excess. It's the new word, like craft beer. And I actually looked up, what does artisan mean? And what it means is it's made by an artist. It's made by hand is actually what the word means. So how can McDonald's in their giant chicken machine factory produce artisan chicken? I don't get that.
You don't think that each one isn't made by hand?
Correct. I don't think that each one's.
Have you ever been in the kitchen at McDonald's?
I've worked at 2 fast food restaurants, and I can tell you that we pretty much make everything by hand. You need an actual short order cook in the back. I did that for over a year. I worked at Carl's Jr. as a backline breakfast cook. We scrambled the eggs, we cooked bacon, we cooked the sausage.
Now, I think the difference here is that McDonald's, you don't actually scramble the eggs. The eggs do come pre-scrambled and pre-formed in some cases. But
I
the
think the
sandwich assembly
folded do.
itself has to
No,
be.
no, no. They have a ring. They don't come preformed.
There's 2
They
kinds
have
of
a
The
eggs.
McDonald's ones do come with if they use the ring or if they come pre-formed or not. I don't know.
There's the folded egg, which I don't know how that happens, but the Egg McMuffin, actually they crack an egg into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how they do a bunch of them without the first one being overcooked and the last one being raw, right?
The
That's
spatulas are like this long. You could do several at once.
but they actually have the
Because
ring.
you only have to cook the one side, and you take the ring off to flip them.
And then you also can request, if you get a sandwich that has the folded egg, similar to like a croissant at Burger King, that kind of folded egg thing, you can request the actual egg from the ring in that at no extra cost if you order a sandwich at McDonald's. So, I mean, they got nothing on the In-N-Out secret menu, but there are a few things you can do at McDonald's.
So what were you going to ask me about this artisan chicken?
I just think it's a scam to say some mass-produced frozen chicken patty is artisan. I think that's a discredit to, guys who are pounding horseshoes on horses.
What is it?
So I can think of approximately 3,000 items on the grocery store shelves that I think are misleading.
Oh my God!
So what?
I mean,
Don't
why don't
buy
they just say, get this cereal so your kids will be so pumped up on sugar that they'll take that nap you've been trying to get them to take for 3 days? Sugar Junkies, the newest from Kellogg's. I don't know. We're so often lied to. But I just think it's a term. But I can't blame them for using a term that people are associating with healthfulness. Not sure which is the appropriate word. So anyway, anything else that we've missed? Should I check my Twitter feed to see?
Anything else that we've missed on this week's edition of Food This Week?
A rare dig from Alan.
I mean, last week we were talking about their vinaigrette. This week we're talking about McDonald's.
Pam, I have a question for you. You follow these things.
What, Dan?
I got a question for Pam, who follows this stuff, or either of you. I'm very close to Baltimore, since we run out of tech topics. What do you guys think about? I saw an article from a journalist who had been in Baltimore for like 30 years, and he said Baltimore is not Ferguson. He said it's an economic issue. He said that they have a black mayor, a predominantly black council. The police department is predominantly black. That I looked at the photos of these 6 cops who were indicted or charged or whatever it is, and it's 3 white men, 2 black men, and 1 black woman. So it's not Ferguson at all. Any thoughts at all on this? On like you've got this poverty that's ingrained for decades. If you're suddenly the ruler, Pam, how do you fix that? I have no idea. There's so many. It's such a complex thing. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. I don't know, but it's kind of like it's an hour from me, and I've been there. I mean, I love Baltimore. I was gonna take the kid to the National Aquarium there to see a great white shark and the stuff they have there, and I was like, I'm not going now because I don't want to, 2 lily white guys going in there, and maybe we'll get beat up or something.
Baltimore's a big city, Dan.
It is a
Yeah,
big
and I
city,
don't
but
think-
this is
I
down
don't
in the harbor place, right?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get beat up. But if I could fix systemic poverty, I would. You know, I don't have any answers to that. Yeah, over time, I have met in my life, I have met people who are from generations of abject poverty. My father grew up, he didn't even have an indoor toilet till he went to the military. Generations of poor. He was really the one who had to hike 3 miles to school in the snow because his parents didn't have an automobile. um, and they made meals out of parts and stuff like that. That's how he grew up, basically living in a shack in upstate New York. And he has a master's degree. He went into the military. That gave him the opportunity. But that's not the solution for the entire nation. I don't know what the solution is. I'm the first woman on either side of my family to have a college degree. I mean, it's there's. I don't have the answers.
Was it an economic thing or a motivation thing, or what caused you to be the first?
It's several things. I mean, look, you number one, you're living in a desperately poor neighborhood, and everyone around you is desperately poor. Everyone has been for however many years, and there's a culture that develops in these neighborhoods, and it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with poverty, and what that does. People have to rely on each other, and they actually have to talk to each other. I don't even know my neighbor's name, and I've lived next door to him for 12 years. I don't have to talk to him. I've got my own car. I have my own job. I can go out and get whatever I need to do whatever I want. And so I don't have to rely on the neighbors. But in these neighborhoods, there's a community and a culture develops, and the culture perpetuates over time, and it changes, and it becomes a way of living. So I don't think it's a lack of motivation. I think it's basically they're stuck in a rut. They don't know any different. They don't know any better. They don't have the motivation because they don't aspire, or they don't understand that there is opportunity.
Okay, here's a question. Let me advance that, because you say they don't know any better.
No, and I'm only guessing, right? Because
I
didn't grow up in those neighborhoods. I could be totally wrong.
And you do have, and ironically, I think isn't it George Washington Carver School, which is the school right near where this happened, where a lot of these kids who were the protesters, and that epic video of the mother pulling that kid out, and I mean that was just awesome. All but beating her son on live television. But,
what do you mean all but?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she wasn't playing. I would not cross that woman.
That is not what I would call awesome.
But good for her. And so, but I'm just thinking.
Whoa!
All right, here we go.
Good for her?
Yeah.
Why was she doing what she was doing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Why did she do what she did?
The kid was 13 or 15. She saw him live on television. It's an only son. She said she goes to church. She did not raise him like that. And she saw him on TV. She was livid, outraged, and like, oh my God. And she went out there and she grabbed him and...
No, stop, Dan. You quoted a lot of what she said. You missed one thing that she said, though.
Okay.
She went out there because she didn't want the cops to kill him.
Well, if you're throwing a rock, in other words, you're saying that she wasn't upset that he was violating
I'm
the
not
law.
saying
She was
that.
upset that.
She said that. She said that she was out there because she was afraid for his life.
You think that was valid? Would you have reacted differently?
I'm not saying one thing or the other.
You're
But
saying.
I think it's also interesting that we're calling this woman who essentially went out there and on TV was smacking her son around, was being violent to her son because he was being violent. Think about that for a little bit.
I mean, are you saying that? So you're not all about spare the rod, spoil the child. I think the kid had an ass whooping coming. I mean, are you like a pacifist with kids, discipline-wise? I'm not sure what Dr. Oz. I don't know. It's
Oh,
complicated.
we want to talk about Dr. Oz too?
Because Dr. Oz admitted that he was a
Wanna
terrible
get that
parent.
in?
He was like the parenting expert, and he admitted that he did a terrible job with his own kids. So,
Do you mean Dr. Sears?
I mean, I'm sorry,
You mean
not
Dr.
Dr.
Spock?
Oz, Dr. Spock. Yeah, not the guy from Star Trek. Yeah, is it Dr. Sears, right? Or Dr. Spock? Yeah, but it was not the Star Trek guy. But he said that he did it. Yeah, not Dr. I'm not endorsing anything Dr. Oz says, other than I'm sorry. I don't know. I think there are. You can't say that they're not aware of potential because they can watch television and they're on the internet on their phone or their whatever, and they know. And I'm not saying it's not a racial thing because I see the same thing. I'm in a lily white county. I see the same generational lack of motivation.
It's not lack of motivation. It's just acceptance. There's a difference.
How much of it is?
It's like the Stockholm syndrome for poverty, right? You just accept it.
Because that's the way it is for everybody else.
That's just
how much
the way it is.
How much does drugs and or alcohol play a role in replacing the joy that someone might otherwise get by getting a good job or whatever? They're fine because they're stoned and they're placated.
I still don't think you get it.
You think it's just generational or cultural?
Yeah. Drugs and alcohol. So drugs and alcohol are two different things. Alcoholism is rampant in a lot of places where people don't have something to do. Number one. Number two, it's also hereditary. Your mom's an alcoholic, or your dad's an alcoholic, or Uncle Joe down the street's an alcoholic, and it's more likely that you're going to be an alcoholic. Okay, so there's alcoholism is an addiction, right? The drugs that exist in a lot of these poverty-stricken areas exist because that's a means of making money. So there's a difference between why they exist in the neighborhood. Most drug dealers that I know or used to know a long time ago, weren't necessarily using their own product because then.
But a lot of successful people do use drugs. I think my favorite Willie Nelson, or the funniest, or whatever you want to call it, Willie Nelson said, "When I switched from alcohol to marijuana, it saved my life." And then you see like Snoop Dogg, who I think is smoking like pot on stage. Those guys are very motivated with a strong work ethic, and they produce a product and they make a lot of money, and they're stoned all the time. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't. Obviously, if this were easily solved, someone would have solved it because it's very expensive to deal with.
The truth is that it's a cultural, sociological, and psychological issue that's very complex, and it's perpetuated by the people who live in that neighborhood, not necessarily on purpose, but they kind of, Rodney grew up on the south side of Chicago, and not necessarily the projects, but in a less than wealthy neighborhood, and he has said that when that he would get teased for going to school because he went to a private school. His parents sacrificed an awful lot to send him to a private school. He would get teased for, going to that sellout school and stuff like that. And so anyone who makes an attempt to leave or to do better or whatever is ridiculed by their peers in these areas, and that plays a part into it.
And the opposite is true, Pam, because like if you're in Fairfax County, Virginia, for example, where it's a bunch of government contractors and everyone there is making six figures, McDonald's probably pays $20 an hour there, and there it's frowned upon to not go to college, and you're very motivated because all the other kids are very academically inclined. So
yeah, society.
What can we
do? The society that you live in. Now, the society I live in and the society that the people in Baltimore live in are two different things, and they play a huge role in the thoughts, the opinions, the behaviors of the inhabitants, and that's just the way it is. That's why we have sociologists, and what can we do? I don't have the answer to that because the the rich white old men in power don't really want to do anything. They like the status quo. They would rather not mess with anything or deal with it or whatever. They're too busy playing global stratego,
And also, I could tell you, it isn't a racial divide issue, because in Appalachia and in places where I have lived and live, there's a lot of people, multi-generations of families. The only difference is they're on pills, and in some of the inner city, they're on whatever, here they're on heroin and pills. In the inner city, they might be on crack or whatever. I don't know what the du jour thing is. But it's the same thing. It's just different flavors. And for whatever reason, there aren't, I think there have been over 10 murders since the Freddie Gray thing happened in Baltimore. But in Appalachia, they're not killing each other. So I'm not sure what the difference is there. But it's a very complicated thing. Let me go to some comments here. And then next week, we will solve the inner city poverty crisis. So Pam is going to be figuring that out for us so that we can offer that there. Okay, so Cy says, on the fast food questions, Carl's Jr. and Hardee's has artisan biscuits made from scratch every morning. I used to make them. 1 bag of flour, a brick of lard, good for you, animal fat instead of this crap from a petri dish, half a carton of buttermilk, and a packet of leavening/salt. Excellent. And then Mark is curious about the removal of hashtags from comment stream posts. That's interesting, Alan. I hadn't seen that. And then on YouTube, we have comments here.
This has been discussed a little bit. It's kind of interesting seeing that the hashtags have left the little box in the upper right-hand corner that they used to live in. If you use a hashtag, it's still a link to the search for that tag. And it's not clear if there are still auto-generating topical hidden hashtags. But they do seem to have vanished from the posts with no announcement or anything. So that is kind of odd.
Okay.
Not odd is the fact that Daniel stepped away.
I was working on my. What'd you say? Hey, he just the kid emerged from his room, an Xbox. Alan was trolling me. He said I was away from the desk. He said, "Oh, I think he's whipping up some balsamic vinaigrette." I'm not sure if he's trolling me, admiring, or calling into question my culinary skills. Okay, so Lori said we lived 6 years in number FFX County. Dan describes it perfectly. I'm missing that. I'm having a ADD moment. I agree, Lori. I was lucky enough to spend a few minutes with her, and she's the real deal and genuinely kind person. To know Pam is to love her, Lori says. To know Pam is to love her. Twitter needs Google big time. Or does Google need Twitter? This will be like when China got...
where are you reading these comments from?
This is on YouTube. I honest to God, I have no freaking clue. If it's the apparently there's like the comments under the video, and there's a live stream, and one's preserved and one's not, and one the API is different. God forbid Google could just do shit that makes sense. Okay, real-time customer service answered by Googlers is a great use for their Twitter channel.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, I've noticed lately.
Yeah.
And
it is a great use. It's not going to happen.
Well, their Google.com account, I see a lot of responses from just disgruntled people. I'm sure it's a small number because I imagine there's far more than they respond to. Mark says that what was gained by removing hashtags from comment stream posts? I would love to see hashtags return with a Twitter integration with the newly renewed partnership. Apparently the deal's done according to our viewers. Wow, comments working. Twitter needs Google big time. And of course, our favorite comment of the night, as I've said earlier, to know Pam is to love her. So, there's that. So,
yeah, I think the hashtag censoring is interesting, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, it wasn't being used much.
Oh, okay. Lori says Northern Fairfax County. Yeah, I mean, when I described it as being very high on education and college and stuff, and frowning upon anything other than, being on the academic trajectory. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's cultural. I don't know if it's geographic. I don't know if it's multi-generations are used to one thing and it's hard to change, or what. I don't know. Anyway, have we missed any crucial tech stories?
Lots of news out of Microsoft this week.
Yeah, what are we
They're
going to
going
be discussing that on Monday? We'll discuss what's going on with Microsoft. I understand they had their big keynote.
Yeah, they had their big developer event. So we'll be talking about some of that on Monday.
Pam Adra, how was your Google Plus week? Or I'm sorry, Pam, go ahead.
Good. No, it was good. I spent most of my week in a workshop at work.
That's the name.
I hate 9-hour meetings, and I hate them back to back. But I survived. My shoulder and elbow are worse because of it, but physical therapy and braces and staying off the computer when I'm at home are slowly making things better. So that's pretty much it for my week.
Awesome. And we all hate Pam because she gets to live in California.
Oh, it was above 90 every day this week except Monday.
Is it true it's a dry
Monday
heat?
was like 85.
Is it a dry heat?
Yeah. It's not like Florida or something where you walk out and it's just instant wet. Not to say that 95 or whatever it is in this room right now isn't hot, but it's not, it's not like Florida or whatever.
Excellent. All right, so we're still jealous. Okay, so Alan, how was your week? And go long because I have to pee. That's TMI, but I'm just saying.
It was pretty good. Last weekend I was at a Solve4X event in Manhattan that was organized with Google, and it was a pretty good event. We had a really good crowd. We had some people who were really doing some thinking out of the box. Some people who were, way, way, way out of the box, but they weren't that bad. But it was a really good design sprint. It was really good to see that people kind of get the concept of, we've got big problems, and the only way to solve big problems is with big solutions. And to start thinking about what those big solutions were and what it was going to take to actually get there. Not all of the things that were proposed were feasible today. Not sure some of them are ever going to be feasible, but at least there were people who were thinking about what it would take. And if we get one, if we get one person out of that group of 70 or so that actually comes through with a fraction of what they came up with, the world will be a better place. Is really what it kind of boils down to. So that was pretty good. The rest of my week was reasonably well. Keeping way too busy, but so it also.
And don't forget, you can purchase Alan's book, Designing and Developing for Google Glass, at O'Reilly Media, co-authored with our friend Jason Salas.
Jason sent me a message this morning. He said that it was a year ago today that we first got the cover art image for the book.
And tell us the funny story about the bird that they chose, and tell us about why they use animals on the covers.
Well, they use animals on the covers because they've always used animals on the covers. It's O'Reilly's distinctive mark. The birds on our covers have got to be some of the most boring things I think they've ever featured on the cover of one of their books, however. These are completely normal birds that are in India, I think. So they're loud. They've got some very nice music, as I understand, but otherwise they're pretty normal.
No, there was something. It was the most. Here we go. This is the. This is from Amazon. This is the. It was the most talkative or loudest or hyperactive bird or something like that, right?
Oh yeah. Their music is fairly loud.
Anyway, you can still get it. It's a great, awesome book, and I've read several chapters in a year. So
when's I/O, Alan?
I/O is less than a month away.
Okay.
It is coming up at the end of May.
Now, every year, a month out, we always ask Alan for predictions, and they always come 100% true. So, Alan, what is your list?
Actually, I don't think I've gotten a prediction correct yet.
You're batting better than the McLaughlin group, so there's that. Kudos.
I don't know. Honestly, this year it's a tough one. I mean, 2 years ago, I was predicting it was the year of Android games, and it took them a year to actually get to that point. Last year, I think it was clear they were going all in on wearables, and they went all in on wearables. This year, I really don't know where they're going.
All Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Google's got a lot of stuff in the fire right now, but not a lot of it is really, developer focused. Not a lot of it is new developer focused. So yeah, I expect we'll see a lot of continuation of the themes of Lollipop from last year that we saw. Maybe they're going to talk more about Google Fit. Maybe. I think we're going to hear more about Tango, but I don't know if we're going to see too much more about Tango. We're going to hear more about Project Ara, but I don't know if we'll see more about it. We'll see them talking about Wear and Auto and Android TV, but there's not too much new to announce on those fronts. At least if there is, it'll be pretty amazing. I don't think we're going to see the next generation of Glass out at this event. I don't know if we're going to see Magic Leap saying anything at this event. I don't know. And that leaves, okay, so we'll see stuff from Cloud. It's going to have to be really exciting to be from Cloud.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do, Al, because all these companies, these legacy incumbents, they've been often surpassed by the tremendous growth in mobile and in social. And both have not been at the top of their game or get the great results. The thing is, though, in a lot of cases, like mobile stuff, there's been a trouble monetizing that. Although Facebook, I think they just came out, and what was it, like 80% of their revenues from mobile? But like, in the end, it's the money from productivity.
Let me cut you off, because again, you're talking consumer level, and this is not a consumer level.
That's what I was talking. That was my next point. In the end, it's about productivity. It's about the companies buying software to run their sales force or produce their product, run their systems, etc. And I think Microsoft is still very strong there. And I think
That's not
anybody who
what
counts
IO is.
them out.
Dan, that's not what IO is about. IO is about developers. It's about talking to developers and helping us do our jobs better. You know, it's about reaching out to the startups and saying, hey, you know, if you want to be the next Uber, if you want to be the next Airbnb, here's what you need to do. Here are the tools for you to do that. That's what this conference is about. And I don't know, I don't know what Google's going to announce on that front.
So we're gonna look forward to your updates.
I hope to be doing exactly. I am going to I/O, and I hope to be doing exactly what I've now done for. This will be my 4th I/O. Yes, is that right?
I think
Yeah,
fourth or
it'll
maybe
be my 4th I/O, and I hope to do exactly what I've done the past 3 years, and that's do not quite live blogging, but trying to capture elements of the sessions and the stuff that I attend as I attend them. So you follow me. You should be able to see my reports from the floor at I/O 2015.
I remember the first one. I think you did a hangout live from the floor, and Amit and Bradley Horowitz swung by and did cameos.
We had Amit and Jenny Murphy were the two who swung by. And yeah, we did hangouts from the floor every evening. We'll see if we can do that again, but I can't promise it. Jason and I are actually talking about some interesting live streaming to see if we can get it working. But yeah, I hope to give you guys a flavor of what it's like to be there and to, more importantly, get across some of the information that they're trying to get across.
Gotcha.
But if you want to watch the keynote, you guys will probably have a better view than I will.
You can't see it well from there.
You can see it reasonably well, but you guys get, the bigger experience.
Well, there's a bunch of developers there too. I mean, the smells alone.
It's early in the morning. We're a pretty clean bunch then.
Okay. So anyway, my week was good. I went by my storage room today. I was going up by Apple Blossom Festival, and I have a storage room there, and I got a bunch of my pans from when I had a cinnamon roll place, like Cinnabon. And so I'm going to experiment with these with pizza. I got like a dozen of these from the storage room or something. So I'm going to experiment with pizza in a pan, a revolutionary concept. So anyway, it was good. I got the paper out. I was up for 24 hours. I was a zombie. And then there was like staff drama and et cetera, et cetera. But so it was a good issue. Roger's on vacation, their main political writer, and so it was a challenge in ways. But anyway, it was a good week, and it's over. And then tomorrow, I think I'll see, what is it? Candace Cameron, who was on Full House, a bunch of Redskins players, Lee Greenwood, God Bless the USA, and some other folks. So they'll all be around, and I'll try to get some video and stuff talking to those guys and gals. But anyway, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. And let me do one last check for comments. Okay, what do you from Cy? What do you think of Windows 10 on Pi? And is it Adorino? How do you pronounce that, Alan?
I believe it's Arduino.
I got the first syllable right. Not really. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You had the first and last letters right.
I saw that. They said you could run Windows on a Pi, a little tiny Windows desktop.
I think the concept, it's interesting. Windows 10's universal binaries are an interesting idea. I think that what you're going to start seeing, however, are people who don't understand the multiple form factors will try to create an application, say, oh, it runs everywhere, from a HoloLens to a desktop to my watch. And since I'm creating a universal binary, it'll run exactly the same on all these devices. Such developers are stupid. but we have far too many stupid developers out there right now, so I wouldn't be surprised by this. I like the idea. I think the reality is going to come crashing hard into the theory, though.
Okay.
I guess I still have to talk because once again Dan has gone off to bake his souffle or something.
Oh, you got to laugh out of the kid. Kudos to you. Okay, so we have two programs, this program and Our Android Week. Our Android Week is every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on Google Plus Week and YouTube Live, where we discuss all things Android. Our Android Week, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on Monday nights. This program is Google Plus Week, the longest running show on Google Plus and YouTube, the original, etc., etc. Google Plus Week is every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, Friday night, because you have nothing else you could possibly be doing at 8:30 on a Friday night. So thank you all for watching. Thanks for the comments. As always, Cy rocks and everyone else rocks. And Lori corrected me on Fairfax County, Virginia, which is, I think, in a constant battle with Loudoun for like the richest county in the country. And it's definitely like the richest, like working rich, as opposed to like where Pam,
Water
Beverly
thieves.
Hills. Huh?
I just call them water thieves, nothing big.
Absolutely. Government, feeding off the government trough is another way to put it. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. And we'll see you next week. Until then, have an awesome, badass Google Plus week. As I hit the button. Bam.